Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Dream Business, Dream Life. Today, I want to talk about the concept of not commenting on everything I have an opinion on. Now, this is something that has been sitting with me for quite a while. The more that I've paid attention to this thing, the more I've realised how much of a difference it's actually made to me because I've chosen not to get involved in all of these things. But it's taken me a while to get there. And I want to talk through this stuff. Now, this is probably sounds a little bit contradictory because I am now talking about my opinion on something that I'm saying we're doing too often. But bear with me because this is my opinion, but I want to share with you the impact this has had on me and the impact I'm seeing it having on other people. And maybe it's just an opportunity for you to sit back and think about whether you are sitting in this for the right reasons or whether you're doing what you feel you should do. Because we do that a lot in business and in life for that matter. We do what we think we should be doing. Anyway, I'm waffling and we haven't even started yet. So the concept of not commenting on everything I've got an opinion on, it sounds super simple, doesn't it? Almost too simple. Just don't do it or do it and put up with it. But when you actually start thinking about it and really paying attention to how often this happens, how often you see it happening around you, you start to realize how much time and energy this is actually taking up and the impact that is potentially having on you, your business, and other people. Because let's be honest, we're surrounded by opinions. As I said, I'm giving you mine right now. Every time we open social media, there's a post that's going to trigger agreement, disagreement. It's going to trigger curiosity and frustration. It's going to give people that feeling of, well, yes, I agree, but I just need to add this little bit more information. And if you're a thoughtful person, if you're a reflective person, if you've been in business for a while, you've probably got a lot of opinions on some of this stuff. You've got a lot of lived experience that you could share. You've got a lot that you could say, but should you? Now, just to put all of this into context before we start diving into this, I wasn't one of those people, and I am still not one of those people who comments a lot on things for the sakes of commenting on them. I don't give my opinion on lots of things that I could give my opinion on. Yes, I absolutely have those thoughts when I see posts. Yes, I notice things that trigger me, that my gut instinct is I want to comment and say, no, you are so wrong. This is not worded correctly. Yes, I've got opinions and reflections like most people do, but more often than not, I have always kept them to myself. Scroll on by, Emma. Scroll on by. But what I did see was other people saying things. A lot of people getting involved in these discussions over, is it right? Is it wrong? People commenting on everything, quite frankly, jumping into every single conversation, sharing their opinion, their experience, their disagreement, I just want to correct this little bit of your post. And watching that over time has really started to sit with me uncomfortably. I think that's the right word to use. I even started to question if I was a weak person, if I was a bad business owner because I was keeping my thoughts to myself. I wasn't commenting on some of these things. I wasn't correcting people when, in my opinion, and that's the important thing, is that they were wrong or they were saying something that triggered me. But what I could see happening, now I'm a really reflective person. That is how I work. I like to sit back, think about it, then have my say. But what I could see as I'm sitting back and reflecting is how much energy getting involved in all of these discussions was actually taken away from people. I could see how involved people were becoming in these conversations that actually weren't their conversation to be having. I could see how quickly something started as a simple comment would turn into an ongoing exchange that would follow them throughout the day, the week, the month, and for months beyond that in some cases. And I could see how often people were coming back, how emotionally invested they become in this post, in these comments that were going on there, and the impact that was having on their nervous system because, wow, they're constantly switched on. Even when nothing overly negative was happening, this isn't just about getting involved in the drama, this is just about getting involved in conversations that aren't your conversations to have. And I also started to see the impact that Doing this was having not only on the person and their business, but actually the spaces they were in. Conversations were becoming less clear, not because anybody necessarily meant harm, because I don't think people intentionally want to hurt or upset other people, but because every new comment was adding another perspective, another energy, another reaction, another, oh, maybe I'm looking at this wrong. It was taking away your own perspective, your own opinions, because you were starting to get pulled into other people's. And what was happening during that time is the people who were doing all of this commenting were also causing a bit of a, maybe we need to stay clear of these people because they're just argumentative. And this is sort of the stuff that really made me sit back and think. It's what made me realize that, do you know what? I'm not weak. I'm not a bad business owner because I choose not to get involved in these conversations. What I'm actually doing is protecting my energy so my energy can be put to the things that actually matter to me and the impact I want to have on people's lives. Watching it happen was showing me that just because something is well intentioned doesn't mean that it's actually helpful in that moment. And just because you have something that, in your opinion, is valuable to say, doesn't mean that it needs to be said right there immediately or publicly at all for that matter. And watching all of this going on made me realize how easy it is to confuse participation, as in getting involved, with leadership. How easy it is to think that being present in every single conversation means you're actually contributing, because sometimes what you're doing is just adding more noise, more confusion. And I noticed something else too. I noticed that the people who seemed the calmest, the most grounded, the most settled in what they were doing, the most happy in what they were doing, weren't the ones who were commenting everywhere. They were the ones who were being more selective about when they showed up and how they showed up. They absolutely spoke when it mattered, but they didn't feel the need to jump in on everything. And that for me was a really important lesson because I could see myself in that space. I was much calmer, I was much more grounded, I had much more clarity on what I was doing. And I think this is something that a lot of business owners don't really talk about. And that's why I wanted to talk about it in this podcast today. We talk about visibility, we talk about engagement, we talk about showing up consistently, but we don't talk about the emotional and energetic cost of being constantly involved in conversations that we don't need to be involved in, conversations that don't actually require us, conversations that we're not actually making better or giving more impact to, conversations we're just confusing. And that's when I started to really think about, okay, what is it I need to think about before I comment? Now, as I said, I wasn't commenting massively, but I was actually beginning to think I needed to comment more because I was being quiet. You know, that feeling like I'm doing wrong by not commenting, but knowing that I hadn't got the energy or the desire to want to be commenting and getting involved in every conversation. I needed something that helped me to work out what that was. So now I ask myself a really simple question. If I see something that triggers me or I feel the need to comment on, I'll ask myself, will my comment help or is it just going to cause another reaction? And the difference there is by helping, I'm adding value. By causing a reaction, I'm just responding for responding's sake. It's about having the need to say something, to correct something, to add something, to soften something. None of that is wrong, but it comes with a cost, and it's a cost me personally is not prepared to give. I'm not prepared to put my energy to things that are not adding value to me, my business, or the impact that I want to have on other people. So I want you to think about this. I want you to think about every time you enter a conversation, I want you to remind yourself that you're giving it a little bit of your energy. Because when you start noticing that energy that you're giving to these things, you're going to realize how easy it is to spend your energy in places where you're not actually going to get anything back. And what also becomes really clear to me is that leadership is not about volume. It's not about being visible for visibility's sake. And it's definitely not about having a public opinion on every single post that crosses your screen. Real thought leadership is often quiet. But what it is always, always intentional. It's thought through. There's a clue there, isn't there? Thought leadership. It's thoughtful. It's knowing that your voice carries weight, and therefore you're being thoughtful about when and where you use it. If you are a thought leader, if you have that weight behind your voice, if people have that, they look up at you, what you say has massive impact on people. So it's about doing the right thing at the right time. Real thought leaders do exactly that. It's not about commenting on everything. It's about trusting that you don't need to prove your depth, your experience by commenting everywhere. And it's about being okay with letting conversations go on without you. Now, the people I've seen who feel the most grounded in the business are the ones who don't seem to be getting constantly pulled into these conversations because they're being selective about where they are showing up. They're engaging where it matters. They're speaking up when it's aligned with them, their values, their mission. But equally, they're comfortable with not being part of all these conversations. And there's something else here that feels important to mention. And this is the impact you speaking up constantly is having on other people, as well as you and your business. Because every comment you put out there, even a kind one, even a thoughtful one, is actually landing on a human being. The person who posted it, the person you're responding to, is going to pick up your comment. And we don't always know what state they're in when they read that. We don't know what capacity they have to take it as a thoughtful, kind comment. They might read that as a mean comment or a judgment. And that may trigger them to think, no, I need to correct this. Absolutely, sometimes adding another perspective helps, but sometimes it actually just makes things worse. And I've noticed how often conversations online become lost and harder to understand as more and more people comment and get involved in them. Not because anyone is wrong. We all have opinions, but we all have different opinions. We all have experiences. We all have different experiences. But because the written word is so often misinterpreted, we all know that, right? We all have opinions, and unless they are actually unkind, then it's absolutely okay to have opinions. But we don't have to share them every single time. Sometimes choosing not to comment is actually you being thoughtful, you showing an act of care. Care for you, but care for the other person too. It's about saying to yourself, do you know this comment doesn't need me? Or does it need me? Do I actually need to say something right now? Come back to my question, will this help or will it just cause another reaction? And over time, what this understanding has created for me personally is so much more calm, so much less mental noise, so much less of that background buzz that comes from being involved in things that aren't really part of my dream life. And that's what I'm here for, to build my dream business, my dream life, and to have an impact on other people to do the same. And I think this matters so much when you're building a business, because a business that feels good to run, one that supports the life that you really want, requires energy, clear energy, creative energy, emotional energy. And when this energy is being spent on reacting to other people's comments, less of your energy is left for doing the things that actually matters. And the things that matter are you building your life and your business. So now, even though I don't comment often anyway, there's that deeper pause, that moment of checking in and asking, where is my energy best used right now? Am I being pulled into this or am I choosing it? Am I responding from intention or is it from a subtle sense of obligation? I really should comment on this thing. Is this something that genuinely needs my voice, or will it simply create another layer of reaction, another layer of confusion? And most of the time, the answer becomes clear quite quickly. If something is truly meant to be said, Doesn't need to be done there in the moment, doesn't need to be knee-jerk reaction. It needs to feel calm and intentional. And if it is meant to be shared, and if it is meant to be shared publicly, it will be still relevant to share later. So to me, this feels far more connected to the idea of a dream business and a dream life. Because dreams aren't built through constant engagement or constant output, they're built through intention, through knowing yourself, trusting yourself, and you don't need to be everywhere to be effective. You do not need to comment on every post. You do not need to share every opinion. You don't need to prove your wisdom or your experience by disagreeing for disagreement's sake. Sometimes the strongest and most impactful thing that you can do, and the most self led thing that you can do, is to just stay quiet, scroll on by, and get on with your day. And just come back to that simple question: will this help? Or will it just cause another reaction? So there you go. That's my opinion. It is not weak. You are not weak or a bad business owner if you choose not to comment on every single thing that goes out there. In fact, now I've had time to reflect and think about this, I think actually you are the bigger business owner. You are the better business owner if you don't just get involved in every single comment, every single conversation for the sakes of it. Anyway, I'm sure you'll have your own opinions. I'm sure you're going to choose to share some of those. But remember, will this actually add value, or am I just commenting for reaction? Thank you for listening. I will see you next time.